Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live. What is up, everybody? Yeah. Lime Green Fishing Machines in the house. Lane Graves is here. Johnny Kopp. Patrick Kingery. What's up, man? Mike Hare, how are you? Yeah, I got that right. I know. David Schaudelmeyer, how are you, David? Good to see you, buddy. Ed Ranowski, good to have you here, buddy. Yeah. Conway, what up, buddy? Ray Cruz. What's up, Ray? Good to see you, buddy. Heard you had a good time in your tournament. Caught a few. That's all good. I heard about that. Lime Green, yeah. I messed up. I was sitting here looking at my screen for like 15 minutes. And I'm looking up in the corner and I see this thing. It's like says create. It's supposed to say go live. And I'm like, son, get the net. Got to do something about that. So yeah, it took me a minute. Took me a minute to get it loaded back in there. I don't know what I did. I have no idea. It was a Mikey thing, and that's what I do. Scott Shope, how are you? Jim Orwig, what's happening? Yeah, baby. Let's jack this up. Marky, good to see you on Sunday, buddy. Patrick Kingery, Mike Hayer. Yeah, I know, Mikey. I'm doing fine too, buddy. Good. I'm glad you're here. Jack Hinkle, East Stack Fishing. What's up? Jeff Santangelo. All right. Man, I got to let this go a little bit to load up here. No, we're always going to have a tackle talk unless it's something comes up. Holiday or death in the family. Mine. You know, we're still going to do it. Yeah, baby. Nah, it's Miller Lite time. You know that. Johnny Kopp, Miller Lite time. All right. Man, oh man, oh man. I had a little weird start today, but we're all good now. Guess who's back in the house? Cameraman Nick is back in the house.
I'm glad to be back, you know.
Good to see you, Nick. You know, just shows ain't right without you, brother.
Well, you know what? It doesn't seem right when I'm not here either. You know, I'm at this function last week for work, and I'm sitting there going, why?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, the funny thing was last Wednesday, Nick showed up. He's like coming here to do some videos and stuff, and we were talking. He's like, man, I'm not going to make it tomorrow. I got some thing I got to go to. The company sponsors this thing, and a representative's got to go, and somehow it's me. And I said, oh, man, no problem, buddy. You got to, make sure work's covered and you're doing your thing. And I walked outside for a minute, and it was friggin' beautiful. So I made a call to our boy, Anthony Cicero, and I talked about this last week. And I said, Wink, what are you doing? You have to go home right now? And he's like, why? I said, I'm going fishing with Anthony at 6 o'clock sharp. You want to come? He's like, hell yeah, I want to come.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, we went out a couple hours and had a great time on the water. It was fun to do that with Nick. It was a cool time, And you know what? And we're gonna do that from here on out, Nick. We're gonna have these little 6:30 to dark blasts down here to the river. We can
take advantage of it.
Well, we can be there. You saw we could be there in 10 or 15 minutes, and we're in the water. And we're fishing right away, so it's short, but it's fun.
Yeah, and you know what? We caught a lot of fish.
We caught a lot of fish,
and that time's going to get longer as it gets.
Yeah. So next thing you know, we'll be fishing right till 9 o'clock, and makes it worthwhile. A couple hours.
But like I said, I wasn't here Thursday. I'm at this function, which was a good thing. It's actually
Yeah.
kids and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and the kids are not there. So what I'm about to say, don't judge. I'm sitting there going, why? But it was nothing that a few Miller Lights couldn't brighten up. It was good.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you had a good time and everything. It's really good to have you back.
Thanks.
For you guys that don't know, this is Tackle Shop Live. We come at you every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And we like to talk about fishing. We like to talk about tackle because we are a tackle shop. And we love to talk about tournaments. And my name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord. Behind the camera is cameraman Nick. And this is what we like to do. And we have a great OG crowd that comes in every week. And we appreciate you guys so much. And we also appreciate all the newbies that are coming in, or the guys that have been with us just a little bit. It's really interesting that we get to interact with a lot of people at our events every day in the store here when we're doing business. Somebody will come in and a conversation will start, and they're like, "Man, I just watch every one of your shows," and then I just or the best ones are, "Man, I just found your show, and now I'm going all the way back to the beginning, and I'm binge watching," and that makes us feel really good. And when we get those comments where, "Oh, I picked up this, I picked up that, man, this really helped me out with this really helped me out with that," that's what it's all about. That's what Tackle Shop Live is all about. Talking tackle, talking fishing, coming up with passing the information on that we've learned over the years, and that we've, being that we're in the business, we get to hang out with the best of the best, and our contacts over the years and our friendships over the years we made with the the elites, the pro anglers, and the discussions we had with them was just absolutely spectacular. So,
you speak on that, Mike, and it made me think we've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, since COVID.
And it's every, week. So if you go back, there's a lot to watch.
Oh yeah. Can you imagine binge watching George for freaking that much time?
Well, I was going to ask you.
Your head would explode.
Now that you're going there,
well,
you guys went on the water this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys put a post up, which was pretty cool. It's got over almost 6,000 views, maybe more than that by now.
Yeah.
And George goes and he's showing us how to change line on the water, and sometimes you got to make those adjustments.
Yeah.
Now it leaves me to ask though, who was fixing whose mess here?
It wasn't mine. It wasn't mine. It was self-inflicted by George. He was a good sport about it. The wind was blowing a steady 15 to 25.
Right.
And these gusts would come up that were like hellacious. I mean, they were like these 50-mile-an-hour winds. And it was, just fishing in those conditions is tough. And I don't know what was going on, but I don't know if it was a bait he was throwing or whatever, but he bombed his cast out there, kablam, bad. And he just put the rod down, and then we fished around a little bit, and then he's like, "I got to fix this rod." And Corbin's like, I got the line. And, he said, "I'll change it out for you." George's like, "No, I could do it. Just give me a minute." So what?
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a little street cred when it comes to fishing.
Yeah, I know. It was, and he was like, and I would never do it. I just leave the rod lay there for the rest of the day. I swear to God, I would. I'd just pick out another rod. I soldier down. He's like, "No, I got to fix this." So he spins this line on, right? And gets everything all ready, and he starts fishing. And it wasn't 10 minutes later, he did it again. And I mean, like, destroyed the whole entire reel. He's like, "What in the hell is going on?" After some profanity that was still hanging in the air down in Goldsboro.
I knew what was going on. I had the reel set up with it was a Shimano reel. I had one brake block on.
Yeah.
I had no spool control. And I had the SVS backed all the ways off because I was flipping.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'd see something sexy in there, and I'd freaking jack it, and was getting away with it. Twice I didn't get away with it.
So the second time,
I feel like I pretty much don't have to make any excuses for that.
No,
but
no,
I thought
no.
it'd be a cool video.
Yeah. So
No.
I said to George, I said, man, wait, let's video this out on the water. I said, but this is the best. This is the only thing we can do to make something good out of this,
Listen, it was the coolest thing. And no, you're right, George. There is no excuses because I went to my kid's soccer game that day, and I watched these 16-year-old boys who, by that time, can boot a ball.
Yeah.
They boot the ball, and the ball comes flying halfway back.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy!
It was bad.
It was bad.
It was bad. It was, and it's not only just to win that, and some, it's you're what do they call that when you're focused in on something?
Tunnel vision.
Yeah, when you're fishing and your concentration level,
Yeah,
gets distracted with the wind because it's blowing you around, and we were all, every couple casts you were turning around and firing, doing a clean off, cleaning your reel out and then reeling it back up and then going to pitching again. But everybody, it was happening to both of us. It was just, that's what happens in those types of conditions. You just lose that little bit of focus, and it just happens. So it was funny, but the fact of the matter is that George is a very I don't know what the word would be. He's a guy who is where he stops, fixes the problem, and then goes back to fishing.
and that is hard to do.
Yeah, right in the middle of the day.
Yeah,
But that was the rod. That's the rod he was fishing with. That's the rod that was working for that bait.
Well, how long does it take you to spool a bait caster?
It doesn't take long at all.
It takes me about 2 minutes.
No, but you're right. But there's so many
Yeah.
people, and I've been there.
Yeah.
Where it's like rod goes in the box.
Yeah.
It's done. It's
Well,
done.
and the other takeaway from that video should be: listen, you should take some line with you when you're out fishing. You should have your line bag with you in your boat. You should always have some line with you, whether it's just a filler spool or whatever. Just always have some backup line, because if you're doing something specific with a specific rod that you have, and you only have a few rods, you can't really afford to have one down.
Well, I change a lot of line that has nothing to do with backlash.
Yeah, right. No, I know you do.
99% of the time when I pull the line bag out, I'm changing the line for an effect.
Yeah, exactly.
That I thought that was funny that I backlashed the same reel twice within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That I couldn't fix it. I thought that was funny, so I thought we should do that video. But as far as backlash and reels, let's go.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
any
guys
takers?
Guys on pre-tackle shop, a lot
Yeah.
of them lost money because we had bets. George said, you were fixing Mike's reel,
yeah.
Herman's reel.
Right. Well, normally he is fixing my reel, because I won't do it. I'll just throw it off to the side and go. If I was throwing chatterbaits and I only had one chatterbait rod and all I had left was a topwater rod, I put that chatterbait on a topwater rod.
I think
that's how bad I am.
We're always
suck at
talking
that.
about techniques and tackle and dialing in and everything. I'm just saying the ability to cast, I fish with a lot of people, and a lot of people have a lot of room to improve. If you can't put the bait, I was talking to Skeeter Steve today. He was down in Florida last week. He was on a guide trip on a small lake with a great guide, and he said, you should have seen this man skip a frog.
Yeah.
Now, if you're sitting there right now thinking to yourselves, I can't skip a frog. That doesn't. There's an improvement you can make to your game that doesn't cost anything, except for maybe some line.
Yeah.
Or skip a jig.
Yeah.
If you can't skip a jig,
It's room for improvement.
And you're all about this.
Room for
You
improvement.
need to get there.
Yeah, it's room for improvement.
The only thing it'll cost you is some line.
Yeah.
Because you will blow your reel up.
Yeah.
Skipping.
Yeah.
And learning to skip.
You know what's funny though? As most anglers today, we have spot lock, power poles, all these things that can help you with boat positioning if it's windy. Not like you guys had, but like the average guy, and most people wouldn't even go out in that wind. Let's be honest. But you remember when you guys were fishing tournaments when you didn't have spot lock, you didn't have these things, and you're trying to position that boat to make these casts?
Yeah.
Man, that's tough.
Oh, yeah.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you didn't think about it like that.
Right.
Because you didn't know there was such a thing as a power pole.
You didn't know any difference.
You didn't know there was a spot lock.
Funny thing is, Nick,
you just got really, really good at driving the boat.
Yeah. We saw one other boat all day long. And then at the end of the day, we saw a guy that had a dock with the boat right there. He got in it, he went right in the marina. He went right around the corner, right in the marina. And but we had, so what was nice about it, we had all the water to ourselves, and we knocked the crap out of the fish. We caught a ton of fish. It was fun. It was a good day. The fluke bite was on fire for the smallmouth. We caught some big smallies first thing in the morning on the fluke, and then George lost a real big one on a mag draft. Of course, he's mag draft drunk right now, and then we looked upriver and we tried to figure out a place to go for smallies, and it was like, everything we wanted to fish was where the wind was blowing. So we decided, let's go down and there was an area where we could get out on the northwest bank and get out of some of the wind. So we went down there. Well, that didn't really work, but there were some areas where it wasn't as bad, and we went and caught largemouth for the rest of the day, and it was phenomenal. It was great largemouth fishing. Wacky rig Senko played a big part. And we were fishing trees. And one of the things that I was doing that, was different than George was doing was I was trap fishing the Senko in under the trees. I'd throw it up creek, and I would just pick it up and let the current just push it and push it and push it and push it, and it just pushed it right up underneath the trees. And bingo, every single time I'd catch them out from underneath those trees. So fishing the upstream side, drifting it and drifting it right up in underneath those trees.
Well, it's funny that you're saying about these different techniques, because Sunday morning I wake up and I was going to go with you guys, but then I decided, I'm going to go to the tournament.
Yeah.
But I wake up and I see this wind, and I'm like, I'm thinking about you guys right away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I wonder what techniques they're going to be able to do today in this wind. But it sounds like you guys have a lot of techniques.
The fluke was really hard to fish because, that's a slack line type of thing. And it was really hard to fish it. So I dead sticked it a lot, but that was the bite. The bite was a dead stick and getting it on the bottom and then just getting the rod tip almost like in the water almost and just twitching a little bit. And then they would just suck it in. It was hard to fish at, but I managed five really good bites and missed a couple. And put I don't know, what was 16.5 pounds in the boat in like half an hour, man. It was like really cranked them up pretty good. Had a four, what was that? 4-1 or something, 4-4 maybe it was 4-4. Nice fish. It was fun. So anyway, that's what we did. That's what we did Sunday. And it was interesting. It was fun. We fished a lot of different baits, but we went fishing and we learned that you can change your line on the boat, and the takeaway is take some line with you on the boat. Takes a second.
Been doing it for 40 years.
It takes a second. We saw how George did it in his jacket. You guys go back and see that video. And he threw the line right down the jacket. It was perfect friction for him to spool that line right off. Work like a dream. And yeah, there you have it. So
George,
good stuff.
I know this question isn't about changing the line as much, but we had a guy who messaged from your video. He asked, what knot were you using to connect your two lines together when you changed your...
I mean, at that point, it really doesn't matter what you use. I always use blood knot. It's attaching to your backing. So tie whatever you want. But I just tie a blood knot because I tied,
8 billion of them,
100 million blood knots in my day, and I can tie it real quick.
Yeah, the blood knot for us came from when we were fly fishing a lot back in the day when we were back in high school.
We used to buy like tapered leaders. We just tied our own leaders. You know, we had like
20 down to
all kinds of different material, and then we had
it was all blood knots.
Depending what kind of fly we were fishing or a situation we tied different leaders up. You tie them right there on the stream.
Yeah.
It'd take you like 3 minutes.
There's other knots you can use, but that's the one we always used. Yeah. Yeah. You don't really, if you start seeing your knot, you need to put new line on anyway. So, but yeah, blood knot. There you go. We 2 knots, 2 wraps. No, we use 3.
3.
Yeah, we use 3. And then if I'm telling you, fluorocarbon, light fluorocarbon, when you're down in the 6-pound test, you should go 4, even 5, because it'll slide. So I like to go 4 or 5 with a 6 to a 6 or something like that. I started trout fishing, like all you guys know. I went last night, caught 4, lost 3, hour and a half, and I use a blood knot to tie a fluorocarbon leader out on the water, and I found that I have to go 4 or 5 times on each side, because if you don't, I guess it's going monofilament to fluorocarbon, it slips. So, but 4 or 5 locks it and holds it pretty good. So, just whatever you have to do. Okay, hey, ladies and gentlemen, 2 weeks left, less than 2 weeks left. May the 18th, the greatest tournament ever, is going to be blasting off in the back of Anchor Marine on the upper Chesapeake Bay in the Northeast River. Susquehanna Fishing Tackle, sfttackle.com SummerSlam is in full effect right now. We are getting applications every single day. We are filling up. We got well over 60 now in the box, and at the last week is when everybody tries to get in. This is going to be a great tournament for you. This is a tournament you want to fish. This is a tournament that everybody wins. It's a tournament where the buy-in is fishing tackle. So for every person out there who wants to fish a tournament, and you're always like, I don't want to be the donator, this is the tournament for you. You're going to buy $250 per boat. That's 2 guys can split it up. And that is from our great sponsors, Shimano, G. Loomis, Jackal, and Power Pro. $250. I mean, who can't use line? Who can't use a new rod? Who can't use some great baits from Shimano and Jackal? I mean, there's stuff you can buy. I'm sorry. If you don't think you can buy stuff from those companies, you're crazy. The guy called me today. He was like, man, I got all kinds of stuff. I said, well, do you have any Shimano crankbaits? He's like, oh, Shimano has crankbaits? I said, get on the site, man, and type in Shimano. Check it out. Type in Jackal. You need some jigs. You need some swim jigs. You need some top water. What do you want? What do you need? And he was like, holy crap, I didn't even think about that. I said, hey, you mean to tell me you don't need any Power Pro line? Come on. So he called me back and said, oh, man, I wasn't even thinking that way. I said, I just didn't need any rods and reels. And he loaded up on some line and some crankbaits, and he is good to go in the tournament. So my thing is that when you go fishing in this tournament and you have one of those horrible days, like everybody has, and you come in and you're like, man, all I could do was 8 or 9 pounds, and geez, I'm not even near anything. Guess what? You're a winner. You get to win your tackle. You keep your tackle. That is a win for you. And that means that everybody's a winner who fishes this tournament. We have a fantastic weigh-in. We have a tackle toss. We just really make it fun. We really make it laid back. There's no pressure whatsoever for the new guys who never fished tournaments before. We will help you. We will walk you through the event all the way from start to finish. And you will see how fun tournament fishing is. And you will see what that adrenaline rush is first thing in the morning. And it is so much fun. So you can buy in online, sfttackle.com, or you can jump on, come in the shop here and bring your application, and we can get you signed up in here. I will tell you this, you have to buy tackle that's in stock. So the longer you wait, there's things that might be selling out that you wanted. You better hurry up. I mean, we have a lot of tackle from those companies, but there was a guy today who wanted a rod, and we sold out of those. So it was a popular rod, so we sold out of those. But make sure you do it now if you're going to get in, and let's get this thing going. And it's going to be a fun time. I hope I see everybody there, and I guarantee you one thing: you're going to have a great time in that day. May the 18th is coming quick. Okay, fantastic. Well, this is Tackle Shop Live, and we are standing in a tackle shop. And there's nothing more that we like than talking about fish and tackle. And this is our favorite segment, and we call this Tackle Talk.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tackle talk it is.
Tackle Talk it is.
Hybrid.
Hybrid?
Hybrid. I was on the boat phone Sunday and got a good suggestion from a listener about talking like some tackle talk and some technique with it, which we do a lot, which I pointed out. But I got to thinking about it and got to thinking about trailers. Yeah, I like trailers, man. I like jig trailers. I like chatterbait trailers. I like swim jig trailers. I like spinnerbait trailers. I like buzzbait trailers. I mean, I like trailers.
I like tractor trailers.
I'm talking fishing.
Oh.
And, we were talking before the show tonight about like the old days versus the new days as it pertains to some of these old school top level tour pros recently speaking their mind. And I love it. I love it. I love it. This is America. Like these guys, as far as I'm concerned, they're paid up and all in. They can say what they want to say. And I love it because back in the day, the conversation that we had tonight was like, I know a couple of anglers that I think could have been as good as almost any of them. But it was a different era. There was no social media. There was no, GPS. There was no cell phones. But these guys were grinders. And, it got me thinking about the techniques because we were talking about how simple it was. We didn't have this big spread. The jig, the spinnerbait. I actually dug one of the guys' spinnerbaits out and showed it to one of the top level guys you may or may not. Danny Correa, Marlboro, Mass. One of the best ever. Dug out one of his spinnerbaits and showed it to everybody tonight. And they're like, what the hell? I said, that spinnerbait's called the big dog.
You know what cracks me up about what you just said, George? I'm imagining you and Mike when you, let's say your second year in business, and you guys walk into this tackle shop today.
Oh.
Going, what?
Yeah, well, I mean, it didn't exist. But the conversation we had got me thinking about like, well, we fished a jig, a spinnerbait, a Texas rig, a Carolina rig, but the jig and the spinnerbait was all about the trailer. There was no chatterbait.
Yeah.
What? There was no chatterbait.
It wasn't even a swim jig back then.
No, you
jigged.
That got created.
Yeah.
Probably by some guy reeling his jig in.
Yeah.
And getting smoked and being smart enough to realize, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And that's all about a trailer.
Yeah.
So, the swim jig, the jig, and it can be a finesse jig, like this guy here. I call this a power finesse jig. Because the reason it's a power finesse jig is it's got a little more hook to it. If this was like a bitsy bug, it would have a lighter hook. That would be a finesse jig, or like a little TRD jig. Every company makes a great little finesse. This is a power finesse jig. Whether it be a power finesse jig or a full-size jig or a swim jig, it's all about the trailer. And basically there's like two different types. There's the boot foot swim bait, and there is the double crawl style. Now we do have a third category. The
Spike.
The spike point.
Straight tail.
Freeloader. We're not talking about them tonight. So we are going to talk about some trailers. We're going to start off with a fairly new bait. It's from Reaction Innovations, and it's a new size. It's not a new bait.
No, it's been around for a while.
Yeah, the bigger 4.0 size.
Yeah.
But now we have a 3.0 spicy beaver. And we've talked about it, in the past.
We touched on it.
But, we want to break it down, okay? Here it is on that power finesse jig. Not bad, huh?
I'll tell you right now, Nick, Sunday, I would be pitching that thing around. Look at that thing. Looks good. Telling you.
Of course, we got all the colors.
GP.
Green pumpkin.
They got a great green pumpkin. You know what the thing about Reaction Innovations, George?
I know a couple things about them.
Their colors do not swagger. They don't vary.
Swagger?
They don't.
Their colors have swagger.
Their colors have swagger, but they don't vary. When you get shipment after shipment after shipment, I can't remember when we said, man, they're off on that color.
Mike and I
can't remember it.
Mike and I and the fellas that work here, we checked in an order from a bait company last week.
Yeah, we had to send some back. They weren't even close.
And we called them up and we're like, you must have subcontracted this work out because
you can't sell
the kind of customer that is apt to come in here
and buy
is
that
going to look
product
at that and say,
I can't
buying
buy
that.
Or if it's something we ship to them, and
they're going to say, I want to send it back.
I want to send it back, and it just costs everybody money. It's just this company, Reaction Innovation. I'm not kidding you. These guys are legit. Everything is always the same.
They make their own baits.
They make everything themselves in Alabama, Arkansas, or
Alabama, bro.
Alabama.
Get it right.
Well, I know it's down there in one of them A's.
Well, there's a big distance between the two of them.
That's an A. And these guys have been around, and their quality is super great. Now they pour their own and they do their thing, so they run out a lot. But I'd rather have quality than sacrifice the quality for having stuff in stock all the time.
No, they don't send out a product that's not correct.
They don't. You know why? I'll tell you why. Every one of them freaking guys fish.
They're hardcore.
They're hardcore fishermen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hardcore.
Great company.
So yeah, we got the green pumpkin. We got the blank check.
Which has become.
You know what? We're going to take a blank check out of the bag.
That thing has become like a real freaking deal.
We're going to take this out of the bag. This is to me, black and blue.
Flip it over. Ooh. Little deep purple.
Like an electric
purple in the back.
Blue. Electric blurple.
Is that a name?
And look at that look at that tail. You see that blue shot on that tail? Yo, black and blue jig trailer people. Or green pumpkin jig trailer people.
Yeah.
Or
show them the boot foot on the end of that
or
thing.
flipping.
It's got a real pronounced boot foot on it.
Yeah, it's got a ledge on both sides.
And the other thing about that I noticed is there's some kind of little thing at the nose of that.
That's to enhance. If you're flipping this, that little build out right there.
I don't know if you see your fingers, George. There, that's perfect right there. So
I'm going to show you.
What is that?
I am going to show you.
I got him fired up on that. The guy asked me that the other day, and I said, I think it's where when you Texas rig the little.
Let me get my box of possibles out here, Nick.
Show him the possibles there, Nick.
So most people, when they flip, when the money's on the line, that's the That'll cure you in a lot of situations right there. Put that in my little Mega Bass little Ziploc bag there.
Yeah.
But anyways, most people when they're flipping, when the money's on the line, they're going straight shank, flipping hook. And on a sweet beaver style bait, you set the hook, you split the whole head of the bait out.
Exactly.
So this is designed. Look at that. Look how precision that is. That hook comes out right behind that tab. That's not random. That's not haphazard.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we come down here, and when you sink your turn it and sink it, look where the keeper is.
Right on that block. And now
it's
not going to rip out all the time. It's just well thought out. Fishermen think that stuff up.
Nothing is haphazard about that.
Yeah. Fishermen thought that up.
This little bait right here, if you're flipping this will be the equivalent of like a smallie beaver on steroids.
Yeah.
And if you're flipping this and you're catching big fish, that's all hook. And that's going to survive a little more impact. Look at that. That's badass.
Yeah, that's just so well thought out. I mean, just great thought out.
That's blank check.
Yeah, I like that color.
Now, this next color is tramp stamp. And I'm telling you, this color right here, this is your black and blue or your green pumpkin trig trailer. Black and blue. Green pumpkin. Green pumpkin. Little bit of that black and blue bleeding in there. So putting this on a green pumpkin jig, putting this on a black and blue jig. Flipping this.
Yeah, it's freaking money.
Straight cash. Now, I'll tell you, we're talking about reaction. And who they are. Like every single color, every single company out there has
copied them.
Blue Craw, Magic Craw, Magic Craw Swirl. These guys invented it. We got our Magic Craw Swirl.
Perfect amount of swirl in that thing. Beautiful.
We got our California 420.
Watermelon red and like a melon.
Come on, bro.
Huh? Watermelon red.
I mean, come on.
On one side, dark melon on the other. Huh?
You got watermelon red.
Yeah.
And I would call this a
California 420 on the other side.
Dark watermelon red.
Yeah. Dark melon, red flake. That's close.
Yeah, you were pretty close. And one that's not often thought of in the world of these kind of baits, but is something that when you're buying, always buy a pack of this every single freaking time. White. This is white trash.
Yep.
This is going to go on your baby jackhammer.
Yep.
This is going to go on your swim jig. And this is a flipping bait for bedding fish.
Yeah.
So Spicy Beaver 3.0, exciting stuff. 7 in a bag.
Good stuff, man. It really is.
$5.99. 7 in a bag.
Yeah.
And I would also recommend that you reacquaint yourself with the 4.0. So if you're fishing a full-size buzzbait and you're taking the skirt off and putting a kicker trailer on, it's a great kicker trailer. The other thing I would tell you, if you're fishing a finesse buzzbait, such as some of the 1/4 ounce and 1/8 ounce buzzbaits out there, this is a great buzzbait trailer as well. So jig trailer, baby chatterbait, swim jig, buzzbait, flipping,
Yeah.
salt content.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got it all.
Yeah. No doubt.
I just want to talk about it because I'm a big Reaction Innovations fan.
Yeah.
Big time. These guys have been in business for a long time, and we've been a dealer of theirs since they were in Arizona. Not to mention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just so impressed with those guys because they're fishermen.
Like American company.
Yeah.
American made.
Yeah.
No tariff issues.
No.
We're not dealing with tariffs here.
No.
We're not dealing with China.
No.
We're being made by Americans that bass fish.
Yeah.
Reasonable pricing.
Yeah.
Exceptional, massive product line.
Yeah.
Come on.
I know. I just like the fact that they think of those little things and they do the little things, and they're inventors. They invent their own things. And
that little kick out right there,
yeah,
is about as cool as it gets.
Doesn't get any better than that right there. Well, you're not going to see it now. Cameraman Nick had a.
We might talk about that later.
Yeah.
So that got us thinking about trailers, and in no particular order, here are some old school and some new school trailers and what we're learning. So for several years now, we've had Maxent. And it is legit.
It is legit.
It is legit.
We had an experience with that this weekend.
I have an experience with it every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, we were throwing one thing and we put that on and we started catching them.
I mean,
honestly,
every weekend, we're going to experience Maxent. And let's not, go crazy here, but the 3-inch Chigger Crawl is an excellent trailer.
Yeah.
It's an excellent power finesse jig trailer. It's an excellent flip bait. The 4-inch is an excellent full-size jig trailer. It's an excellent flip bait. And it has a spot.
Yeah.
I like it. I carry them with me.
Yeah.
I like it. The 3-inch is an 8-count bag. The 4-inch is a 7-count bag. They're $7.99. Full range of colors.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I love it.
I have been doing, guys, a ton of fishing with the baby jack. A ton. Like, I have a rod set up for it now. I always have a baby jack tied on. And I'm trying to learn, what the range of trailers are to make this thing. Now, I have been fishing it with a little dipper. And it works. But it does not, it hinders the potential of the hunting action. So when that bait's coming back, and it kicks randomly like that, that's what we call hunting. And that little dipper has been hampering that potential.
A lot of plastic.
It's not a lot, but it's too much for this bait.
Well, I'm saying it's a lot of plastic for that bait.
Yeah, it's too much for this bait. So now I'm on to the Yamamoto Shad Shape Swimmer. Number one, it's Yamamoto. But number two, it's subtle. It's slender. It's not bulky. It fits the bait well. Now, what I'm doing is taking them out of the pack. And if you look at the undercarriage of the baby jackhammer, there is the double keeper that we're all familiar with. But you see that collar right there? Looks like a Ned head. That is a weight collar to like back weight that bait for a more horizontal fall and more of a hunting action. And the head of this bait, there's just enough juice there to get a few fish out of it, but you want to take it off and square it up.
Yes. So it's like a smooth top of the head on there for people that maybe listen on the podcast. There's like a smooth little top of the head. It's what, 1/8 of an inch.
And what I'm doing is I'm taking that off.
And George bites it off.
And now when I rig it, my keeper barbs and my keeper collar, that collar and these barbs are getting a full bite on there. Look how straight that is. Look how that butts up against there.
Plus it shortens it up just a tad bit too. Makes it.
And then I get a perfect fit. And I get a little more hunting action. I always start off my chatterbait fishing with a boot foot. And then I adjust from there. Most of the times there's not a lot of adjusting. Sometimes there is. Fishing this bait is an adjustment. So think about that.
Barry Mong, yeah. Love it. Love the Kitech, trailers. The Easy Shiners is the same thing. It's a little bit more slender. Cut off a 1/2 inch of it. Yeah, good for you.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much the same bait.
Yeah, basically.
Yep, pretty much the same bait. Great shout out there. So that is another trailer that fell into this trailer conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Got the theme here, boys?
Mm-hmm.
Picking up what I'm putting down?
Love it. Love it.
Come on. Okay, so the next trailer I want to talk about is, again, dual purpose. And this is all stuff that, like, for me is very high confidence. And, I mean, it's the reason I keep referring to myself is puts Tackle Talk together. So feel free to Jordan King fishing the baby jackhammer on essentially the same rod as a full-size jackhammer. And that would be a bait caster. I'm assuming you're putting your 10-pound Power Pro on a spinning rod. If you're not, that has, like, the problem with 10-pound Power Pro, it has, like, very little abrasion resistance, and we're putting these baits in harm's way. So I'm a fluorocarbon guy when it comes to jackhammers or chatterbaits. So I'm fishing it on 15 fluorocarbon. 7.2 medium heavy ish. I'm actually fishing on a glass rod right now, and I'm going to switch it to a heavy glass. I've been fishing on a medium heavy glass. Ain't working.
Yeah, I mean, a 10-pound Power Pro on a worm rod, just also, if you do want to switch up to worms and throw your bait where you're going with it, usually this is where 15 really comes into play, or even 20.
If it's a spinning rod.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm assuming it's a spinning rod. If it's a casting rod,
it's way too late.
And you're fishing braid, I'd go to 50.
Yeah.
Which has a 12-pound diameter, so it's not like So, this next two I have just like a ton of fond memories of, a phenomenal amount of confidence in. Use them all the time. And you might ask yourself, how do you fish all these trailers? Like, you're talking about 5 different jig trailers. I got 5 different jigs tied on. I mean, I'm changing trailers to figure out what the daily bite is.
Exactly. You don't have to have 5 jigs tied on, but we'll go through the crawfish, we'll go through the different actions on these baits, and they're all different actions. They're all different variations of aggressiveness.
Baby Rage Crawl. Phenomenal trailers. Phenomenal jig trailers. Phenomenal finesse jig trailer. Phenomenal full-size jig trailer. Also a phenomenal standalone flipping bait. You get a tough bite, and you have to do some finesse flipping around hard cover. This bad boy can bring the world back to life for you. The coffee scent, I'm just putting it out there.
Smells pretty good. It's not that good.
I feel like I'm like banging out a line or something, but it's real good.
Oh, jeez.
It's real good, and the fish like it. Okay. Coffee scent, legit. Tons of colors.
Yeah.
Match everything up. I'm a big believer in this on a finesse jig or a power finesse jig. I'm a big believer in this on a chatterbait or a full-size flipping jig. I usually bite off 2 segments off the body. And flipping it, I leave it whole. So the Rage Crawl, certainly not new.
It's so good as a jig trailer that they came out with the chunk version of that, which is the same, basically, like George said, cutting off two things. It's right there.
And the chunk's awesome.
Yeah.
So basically, it's not new, but I do want to say it made the list. You know, when I was making my list tonight, it made the list because I was shooting straight, and yeah, especially the baby on a finesse jig, special place.
Yep. Jordan, if it's a spinning, definitely go to 15.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. If you're fishing a baby chatterbait on spinning with 10-pound braid, that's fine. Put a 15-pound leader on.
Yeah, but I
make your leader like
just
6 feet long.
Just think about the versatility factor.
Change the leader. You can't get any more versatile than that.
I wouldn't use 10-pound for versatility. It's very specific for me.
Okay.
15 is the way to go for versatility.
I mean, that's a fine line.
No, I don't think so.
I always fish 15. I never fish 10, but
I fish more 10 than you do.
I don't fish any.
So
you fish a lot more than I do.
Yeah, I fish more 10 than you do.
But my point is,
and
it's
I wouldn't
all about
use it for a lot
that
of
setup's all about the leader.
I totally agree, but if you don't have a good solid main line, you can bust it off on the freaking hook set in a tree or in a
excuse me,
with a worm hook.
What now?
You can bust a 10-pound braid off like a lot quicker on a hook.
Probably
on a
not
hook set.
with a 15-foot leader.
On a hook set with a 4.0 or 3.0 hook, which is what we're using on some of this stuff.
Not on a spinning rod.
Yeah, if this is what he's talking about.
Yeah, it ain't gonna work.
This is what he's talking about. That's why I'm saying I recommend 15. I would not do 10. I would not do 10. I would do 15.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting topic for another day.
Yeah. I just wanted to help him out while he was on here. He was kind enough to get on here and ask questions, so I wanted to answer it.
All time. All time.
This is the greatest jig trailer ever.
All time, number one, all time, going way back. The Ultra Vibe chunk from Zoom. I mean, versatility. I can hook it straight through like an old pork chunk and get a bigger profile. I can thread it on and get a tighter profile.
Do we have a jig over there with that on there?
Possibly. This is my all-time. Now, here's what I'd like to do. I would like to hear what your all-time are. So let me narrow it down for you, because I want you guys to put some thought into this. And
Well, we can't put some thought into it because you're popping it on us right now.
first of all, allow me to finish.
Yeah.
Okay? Thank you. I want you to put some thought into this. Think about your fishing styles. Think about what you have confidence in. Not something new that you haven't tried yet. But I want to hear from you people, and I want to hear, the show wants to hear from you. And we want your comments on our Facebook page. Put them on there. We're going to read every one of them between now and next week's show. And we're going to pick one out. And we're going to send them one of each of those trailers. One pack each. Maybe even 2 or 3.
Mike Barr, Uncle Josh Pork Trail.
You might get like 2 or 3.
He's the greatest.
You might get like 2 or 3 packs of Spicy Beaver 3.0. But you're going to get at least 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to get a minimum of 5 packs. You might get 8 packs.
What, for everybody that sends his stuff in?
No, for the one I pick out that I like the best.
Oh.
Not you. Not you.
What?
Hey,
Really?
I'm going to read them all. Whoever's comments I like the best, that's who's getting it. I didn't say it was going to be fair.
All right. Now that you made it this, now you have to say it again. What exactly is that, so everybody understands what you're, because it was kind of like made
I
up
was
as you were
speaking
going.
English.
No, you were making it up as you going.
No, I wasn't.
Now that you got it all worked out.
I had it all worked out before you even brought up that ignorant comment. I want you all to put your comment on Facebook.
Right. There you go.
Which I said. And I want you to, the guy, I'm only talking about the hardcore. If you think this is a stupid idea, okay, you can tell me that.
It's
too.
not a stupid idea. We're just very confused on what you were saying.
Telling the public, if they think it's stupid, you can tell me it's a stupid idea.
Well, I am the public.
But, think about your swim jig fishing, your flip jig fishing, your finesse jig fishing, your chatterbait fishing. Think about your crawl style trailers, which is what I call this category. Crawl style trailers. And let me hear it.
Put your list out.
Give me like 2 or 3, 4, whatever.
Not on here. You got to do it
not on here.
You got
I'm
to do
not
it
even
on
going
our
to look
face.
here. I'm not looking on here.
You got to go to our Facebook page, put down your favorite jig trailer, chatterbait trailer in a crawfish.
You can tell me 1, 2, 3. Now here's how this is going down. If I'm reading the comments and I see like Kitech swim bait 3.3, I'm just hitting the delete button on that one, because we're talking about crawl style trailers.
Yeah.
Which is what we call the double flappers. Okay, not creature, crawl.
And the post that triggers George's interest the most.
Yeah, and if it's really good and it like causes me to rethink like my jig fishing strategies, you're going to probably get 8, 10 packs. If it's pretty good, you're probably going to get like 5, 6 packs. If everybody's like average, you're going to get like 5 packs. So this is going to be fun, and we're going to talk about it next week.
George Ashbridge is dropping in some knowledge.
Yeah. All right. Might want to put that on Facebook there, George.
I saw him.
Stick to the trailers.
Hey, George, I saw you in action the other day. It's pretty impressive.
All right. So that is my trailers. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is, and this is not a new product. Matter of fact, it's too many to mention, but it's getting mentioned. I want to talk about the swim worm, because it's swim worm season.
Oh my gosh, I love swim worm fishing.
Ah, can't stand it. It's just awesome.
I don't throw it enough.
How about?
Make sure you throw it.
I like it.
Oh.
I mean, I think it's a great subtle action that has bailed me out more times than once when other people wouldn't even think about it.
How do you rig it up?
Can we take a second here?
Yeah.
I gotta say something.
You're not going to change the subject after I just talked about a swim worm, are you?
Yeah, I am.
Well, can't you wait till we're done with the swim worm?
Why can't you just let somebody talk for 5 seconds
I do.
and let somebody interact in the show?
It's perfectly
Can you
okay
do that?
for you to do that, but not like to completely like cut the head off of the.
Can I have a couple words?
Yeah, go for it, and we'll come back to this later.
Yeah, give me a couple
When it
words.
suits you.
I just want to say that, Nick, I think you're doing a phenomenal job tonight because you have a broken toe, and you're standing up the whole entire time with the broken toe, and
that was important.
and he's flinching, and I can't not say something about it because he's in pain.
Well, that's game changer there, Nick.
I feel
He's
like
manned up.
I'm like a flamingo over here. I'm like,
You absolutely manned up. Now,
Nick.
let's let George.
Yeah.
Let's let George redominate the show, and you can go ahead.
Okay.
but George, you did ask a question though. And thank you, Mike. But George, you did ask a question. You said, how do you rig that up?
Well, I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, you asked me. So the way I rig it up is I put on sometimes an EWG hook, or not a straight, but the I can't remember. A worm hook.
So you're doing like a
Round bend.
What you got right there? Something like that.
Round bend
sometimes,
offset.
or a round bend offset, or an
Yep.
EWG, depends how I'm feeling.
Yep.
But most of the time, that hook right there, it really you get the hook to it every time. I'm throwing 15-pound fluoro. I don't know what anybody else is doing, but that's what I'm doing. I like to put like a 1/16 ounce weight in front that is not pegged. I'm doing it non-pegged.
Wow.
Because sometimes I want to drop it down and I like that free fall. But I put that worm on there, and I'm telling you, on days where you can't get a bite with a chatterbait, you can't get a bite with a spinnerbait, and everybody's just throwing and throwing and throwing. I'm like, I'm going to throw that something that they never seen before. And Greg knows, because Greg's seen me in action, and he's like, ooh, that's nice. I'm like, yeah, let's try this a little bit.
Well, the unpegged weight is different than what a lot of people do.
Right.
So, and that's pretty cool. I fished with a guy who kind of schooled me on how he does it, and he's like a split shot rig, his swim worms. So he has his 18 inches above it. He pinch. I don't know if he pinches on a weight or if he uses a barrel swivel. I didn't really look that close to it, but he fishes a weight and 18 inches in front of it, and he really likes that thing to kind of do its own little thing,
a little bit different.
He flat out catches him on that thing in the grass.
Now, I'll tell you, I really, really love it. My personal experience, though, is in that post spawn time. But also when I fish down in Florida, that's a staple down there. You guys know that.
Yeah.
And you whack them.
Oh yeah,
they whack them down there. So it's an interesting bait. It's a great look. I love it.
Yeah, I think the first part of the year is when like that pre-spawnish through, because let's face it, everybody doesn't go up all at one time. You got early spawners, you got a first wave, you got a second wave, you got a third wave. So that means you have the first wave is post spawn, the second wave post spawn different times, and that's where I think the swim worm really comes in.
That's a good point.
Is
I
when
got to
you have
take back what I said.
Yeah,
anywhere between the pre-spawn and the post-spawn,
right?
It's gonna be
right, because I was with you a couple times, and it was. I thought it was that going on. I thought there were spawners, a lot of post-spawn, and maybe a few pre-spawners. It's a very unique way the way you throw it. I think. I like the free sliding worm.
What do you do, George?
I peg my worm. Usually I use a screw-in worm weight, lead.
I like it.
And I like a bigger worm. And the worm I want to show you for the tackle talk is the Big Bite Baits tour worm.
I had a big run on those this week, actually.
That's a nice worm.
Comes in a 5.5 and a 7.5. I like the bigger one. And, you know, back in the old days, we had the Zoom Dingaling, which was a paddle tail like this. But I think it got a lot better when some genius figured out if you cut that like that, it becomes this vibrating monster. And I like to rig it up on a same style of offset shank round bend hook, 1/4 ounce weight, screw locked in, and I bomb it. And you know, I'm fishing it almost exactly the way I would fish a boot foot swim bait. So, I mean, if I was fishing a skinny dipper, that's the exact same rig I would do, except for I would do a wide gap hook. If I was fishing a 3.8 or a 4.3 Kitech, that's how I would rig it.
In the grass.
Yeah. I don't fish this worm unless I'm in grass.
Yeah.
Pads, grass.
Pads, yeah.
I don't fish it when the water's cold. This is a spawn and post spawn thing on grass lakes, and it's freaking deadly. And I think it's the most deadly when it's calm out.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
when
when
you're
I love
like,
it.
man,
Yeah.
you know, fishing's kind of tough.
Yeah.
And I love to swim it up to a clump of like a milfoil clump, pop it through, see that puff of dirt come off of that grass, and then drop it like a hybrid. And I'll drag it a little
It
bit.
works.
Yeah.
Robert Bretts, that's exactly what that's called, a Florida rig with a screw-in weight. That's exactly what
That's
it
a
is.
great idea with the screw-in weight. And you know what? Speaking about weights, George, I know I said a 16th, you said a 1/4. It's anywhere in between, depending on what kind of cover you got and how thick it is and what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, it could change.
It depends on your fall rate. You know, I just noticed that when I fish with different people, and the ones that I saw who caught a lot of fish on them fish really light weights, lighter than what George and I do. We catch fish on them. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying the guys who really impressed me with it fish lighter weights.
I think the reason why I throw a little bit lighter weight is as light as I can get away with is because I don't want it moving real fast.
Right.
And
Right.
maybe I never thought about it.
Yeah.
It was just how I envisioned it. When I was
You're still
throwing it.
fishing up where you want it.
Yeah, I'm keeping it in that strike zone
Yeah.
as long as I can.
Up a little bit higher in that strike zone where you want it, and you don't have to reel it fast.
Yeah, 'cause
with
I
a
take
quarter,
note-
with a quarter, if you want to keep it up here, you have to reel it pretty.
Yeah,
quick.
I got to bring my
No.
rod tip up a little
Yeah.
higher, and I got to reel
Yeah.
just a tad bit faster, not a lot
Yeah,
faster.
not a lot faster.
But I mean, it's
Yeah.
just a confidence thing. It doesn't mean I catch more fish or not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I fish it on,
Yeah.
15 fluoro. I fish it on the same exact rod I fish a swim jig on, or I fish a chatterbait on, or I fish a
Oh yeah, because you have to cover
jig on.
You have to have the cover. You know, you have to be able to get the fish out of the cover.
I mean, bigger, I think more importantly than the weight, I don't think enough people throw them.
They don't.
Yeah.
I don't, and I don't understand that because it is a killer bait.
And I fish both sizes. I really like the big bite. I mean, I really like the Zoom too, but I really like the big bite. It's got kind of a unique scent to it. The colors are right spot on, and just caught a lot of fish on them. I guess equal to or almost as good in my power ranking is the Zoom. They have a Magnum and they have a regular, just like they have a Magnum and a regular. And you could name off. I mean, Yamamoto has a Speed Senko. Yamamoto. Hello.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes on and on and on. How many companies have a
Strike
great
King. I've had a lot of luck with that
Strike
one.
King has a
Yep.
good swimming
Yeah.
worm. They have
Yeah.
a twin tail version. It's not new. It's not even sexy. But this time of the year, the month of May, in a lot of places in this country, it's badass. So it made this week's hybrid tackle talk.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know,
Funny thing about that speed worm, I was introduced to it in probably late 1999, 2000. When they quit having that state team tournament up on Raystown?
a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean it was a long time ago. I was introduced to it back then.
Oh, they were throwing that there. Great. Awesome.
Yeah. They were throwing it on the grass back in those. Well, it was later. It was like right at the end of that. I think it was like maybe 03, 04, right around there.
I would almost, and I hate to be wrong on this statement I'm about to make. I don't think I've ever caught a fish on that rig under 3 pounds. Me personally.
It's a big worm.
I don't get a ton of bites because I probably don't throw it as much as some people do. But when it works, it does generate some big bites. It just does.
Yeah, and it's a cool bite. So it's a fun bait to fish. It's visual. Usually you see a swirl and you feel that tunk because it's on. I mean, this is a orca attacking a baby fur seal. They used to club them. Then the orcas came along. This is like clubbing fur seals. The way the bass eats these things, man. It's graphic. And to me, that's fun.
That's horrible. That's a horrible analogy.
Well, that's what a blueback herring mom says when her little baby gets sucked down by a 6-pounder. Oh, little Bobby.
No, the bass sucks down the mama.
Yeah, well, then the kids,
Yeah.
Here they are on the street,
Yeah.
orphan. You know where that's going. I mean,
Oh
it's
my
not
God.
going to be good.
It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Hopefully they get in the program, in the system,
Yeah.
but probably not.
Yeah.
Next thing you know.
Andre, what you want to do there is put it on a split shot rig. I'm just telling you. And problem with Raystown right now, there's no grass. All the grass is dead, Andre. They killed it all. So it might not work.
Yeah, it probably still is.
Every year they keep drawing it down and killing it all. It's just the Army Corps people are so insane. It's unbelievable. And
so,
you know what's worse than that is the Fish Commission allowing that to go on.
Yeah, well,
it's
an Army Corps property.
Yeah, I know, but the Fish Commission
so
does the law on it.
So we used to put rock in a local lake, Army Corps Engineer Lake, and we asked the guy that was running the Army Corps Engineer in that area why they're like, don't put any rock in the lake, put it around the lake for erosion control. Well, okay, we were in charge of that, but he was pretty cool, and he said the reason why they don't like grass in Army Corps Engineer lakes and the reason why they don't like rock or anything, it takes away water capacity. That's the only reason why that lake's there is water capacity.
I call it bullshit.
Well, my brain did too, because I'm like, how much capacity are we talking about?
Exactly.
But I mean, that was his statement. That was his statement because
it reminds me of a joke.
Yeah.
A Pennsylvania Fish Commissioner, an Army Corps of Engineer lake supervisor, and a horse walk into a bar. And the bartender says, "Why such a long face?" Who's he talking to? You would think the horse, right? Long face, you know what I'm saying? He's actually talking to the Fish Commission guy because he's between the Army Corps and the horse and the Fish Commissioner. He's a low man.
That's so bad.
Huh?
That's a very bad joke.
I heard it the other day. It made me laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, 2 years ago, there was a lot of grass, Andre, and they killed it last year, and they killed it again this year.
Well, getting back to this swim worm. So let's get that beautiful big bite bait. Tor swim worm. Let's get that baby out of that package right there. And let's just get this out here. This color is called $10.99. You know why? Because after you run this on a grass on a windy day, you're going to need to file a tax return. Green pumpkin. What would you call that on top there? Black and blue.
Well, it's
tramp stamp.
That's tramp stamp, or it's isn't that like an Okeechobee crawl or something? No.
Okeechobee's like a bright blue.
Oh.
That is $10.99 because you're going to need to file a tax return. Okay,
That's a great color.
Great color. But the beauty of this is
Copied reaction again.
The beauty of this is when you get into that period of the day where the bite's not happening, right? Which is most of the day.
True.
You know, you get these flare-ups.
Yeah.
And then you get these. I was watching
Get these 20-minute flare-ups.
I was watching the Bass Pro Tour this morning. You know, they had a shad spawn. It was like,
who's the guy? Who's the
freaking
fish?
straight up jacking them, right? And then, well, if you're fishing grass flats, the beauty of this is if there's a little bit of wind, you can literally wind drift large portions of the flat and fan cast this as you're bebopping along.
Yeah, just cover water.
Well, who's the bass down there that says, all right, we're going to have a feeding frenzy. Go ahead, boys. And then like 20 minutes later, all right, shut her down. Shut her down. Shut her down. Right? I get to see it.
Well, I'll tell you.
It's amazing. Because, you know, when
it's
you
not
watch
the bass.
When you watch the you know, the Bassmasters or whatever, and they're popping around from angler to angler, all of a sudden everybody starts catching
every
them.
time.
And then all of a sudden everybody's like, man, it's bite just slowed down. You know, the bites, we're in a negative bite window here or whatever they say, you know. And then all of a sudden, like 2 hours later, it's like bam, 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 bam. Or they'll talk about the last minute bite at 2:30 that some of these guys are going to be able to get, but some of them can't because they had to run back.
Well, you always got an afternoon bite.
You know?
Yeah.
Always afternoon bite.
They got these little 20-minute windows. That's what it is.
Well, you know,
Two or three of them. If you get three a day, that's awesome.
You got a shad spawn going on right now.
Yeah, so you got one in the morning.
So it's game on.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And this worm really fills in that cover water period.
So you're saying this one almost makes the fish want to bite it, you know, has certain type of action.
No, what it does is,
or just cover enough water to find a donut.
You know, you could let's think of it this way. You could pick up a spinnerbait and drift that flat during a off-peak bite period. You're not getting bit. Okay, how'd you figure that out? Well, I figured it out because I'm not getting bit. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume that they're not biting anymore because I was getting bit and now I'm not getting bit. Okay. So I'm just going to wind drift these flats and try to find some active, you know, random active fish. Maybe one, maybe two. That's great.
You get an extra bite here and there.
You know, yeah. And, you know, well, I could throw a spinnerbait. You could, but if the bite's off, you're going to get a lot more bees with flies with sugar, honey, than you are with vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
So that worm.
This is the honey pot. Is that what you're saying?
It is. I
agree with you 100%, George.
It is.
You're talking about that shad spawn. So I guess they're in a tournament right now.
So day one was today.
The guy pulls his boat out and he goes, yeah, I'm right in the middle of a shad spawn. I can show you how I know. Pulls his motor out and you see all the eggs on his motor.
Oh, get out of here.
They get up on the motors. I didn't know this.
Oh.
But was it a Yamaha?
No, it was that. I don't know. I don't know. I'd be lying if I told you.
In case you want to know why Yamaha picked that color paint.
There you go. But that was it happened though. The guy's like, this is all eggs.
Wow.
Where his motor was in the water.
Wow. Because they open water spawn. They just let the eggs float.
Let her rip.
Yeah.
He said all of a sudden all these fish were like spawned like up at the top.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what it is.
Wow.
But it's a great time of year.
Yeah,
the
it
bass
is
are destroying them.
Oh yeah.
We don't have a shad spawn that much around here.
We have a minnow spawn.
We have a minnow spawn I've seen, and we have the herring down on the bay, but we don't really get those.
Well, we have a shad spawn. Here's the problem with the shad spawn.
It's in the middle of summer.
It's at night, and it goes into the daybreak. And if you have some cloud cover, it goes a little bit longer. So, if you're going fun fishing and you roll up to the boat ramp at 8 o'clock in the morning,
Too late.
you're not going to see a lot of shad
Well,
spawn.
it's different too than the shad. I don't know. Maybe the shad that those guys are fishing down there.
No.
Are they different shad?
No, they're gizzards and thread fins.
I
But
don't know.
I think
never
getting
fished
to the boat
shads.
ramp at 8 o'clock in the morning has a lot to do with it.
Hey, I am going to make a statement here that could be people could agree or disagree. I have not seen in the elites, because we pay close attention to this stuff, where it has made sense to not want to be a late draw yet. I'd much rather have the afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, if you would say in the tours, then you would be wrong.
So in the tours, what in the
Bass Pro Tour and the elites?
So they're doing more in the morning.
No. But if you would have just said that same statement, I would have not seen in the elites or the Bass Pro Tour where it made sense to have an early flight. You would be wrong, because up until today, it didn't make sense. But today, it made a whole lot of sense.
So good thing I just said elites,
because they drove their boat out to their spots.
Well, they missed it on the Lake Hartwell, the last one.
Oh, because of the shad spawn.
They missed it. They missed the shad spawn on Hartwell last year.
Well, those are herring.
Or herring. Last year, that was going on big time.
But I'm talking about this tournament today.
Yeah.
The guys in the early flights had an extra 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. But it was like pull up and just start bailing fish. I mean, most of those guys caught what they caught in an hour and a half today.
And then it did shut down.
Well, it changed. It changed. That's Chickamauga and Nickajack. Those are Tennessee River impoundments, and it's a river, and it's dammed up. So it looks like it's just wide open water, but it's kind of like most places. You can't drive in a straight line from point A to point B because there's all kinds of shoals, and it's healthy. Like most rivers are, like our Potomac River is, like our Susquehanna River is. So a lot of those hard bottom shoals are covered in shells. And when they say shell bed, they're talking about freshwater clams. They might call them mussels. Clams, mussels, same difference. Okay. Unless you're some kind of ichthyologist.
Is that the same as the zebra mussels up north?
No.
Something different.
No, they're bigger.
Yeah.
Same result. Hard substrate that bass love to spawn on.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out shad like to spawn on them. Turns out that big wide open water that looks like you can drive your boat across. No, you can't, because there's all these bars out there that are, you see with some of these guys fishing offshore, they're only fishing in 3 or 4 feet of water. Right?
Yeah.
A little different than Hartwell. Hartwell, those big long taper points with the clay and the hard spots, that's what the herring like to spawn on.
Yeah.
Same thing, because they're from the same family.
Yeah.
But the lake, when you get off of one of those points, other than a few shoals, frickin' thing's deep.
Yeah.
It's not like the Tennessee River.
Good stuff, George.
Same concept, though. Like, you go down to the Chesapeake Bay right now, and you launch your boat at daybreak in a marina that hasn't had, a bunch of boats launching, and you sit there quietly, you'll hear what sounds like bass blowing up on bait along the bulkheads. And what they are is herring spawning.
I've seen that. Yep.
Yeah. They're splashing along the bulkheads.
That's right now, April, May.
I caught some big fish on that. I don't know if it's a pattern.
Oh, yeah.
pattern.
It's a big time pattern.
It's a pattern.
And just like a shad spawn.
It's got to be the right timing, though, too. Like, because the herring spawn is several weeks, but the bass really don't. So, sometimes if it's warm enough, they come in early, but when they get in there, man, they eat the shit out of them things.
Just like the gizzard shad, the herring are real active at night and in the morning. Now you start getting them bright bluebird days like we had today. It's over.
Yeah.
It's over. It's
All
the
right.
same
stuff.
basic concept.
Good stuff.
Hope everybody's taking notes out there.
Oh yeah.
I hope so too. I have a whole book full of notes. That's show prep for today, people. Not as easy as I make it look.
Looks like chicken scratch to me.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So here's some other observations there, boys. And I know you're on it, and I'm pretty sure he's on it. But we had the Hartwell event. We had the Easton Fothergill Hartwell Classic, the tournament before the Classic. I'm getting to a point. I'm going to make a point. We had the Drew Gill situation.
Drew Gill?
I'm talking about is
what was the Drew Gill situation?
Neko rigging
Oh,
and or wacky rigging. Hartwell. Almost everybody was wacky rigging.
yeah.
I mean, last week we talked about Randy Howell drives his boat like a bat out of hell, pulls up on an 8-pounder that he marked in practice, makes one cast with a wacky rig Senko, catches it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wacky rigging. Okay, so
Jacob Prozik was right on his tail.
yeah, and he wasn't wacky rigging, oddly enough, and he's a wacky rigging master. But if you look at all these tournaments this year, spawn-related events, the wacky rig and the Neko rig
It's crazy.
is so powerful. Jay Secure It. Every tournament, wacky rig, Neko rig.
Yeah.
Easton Fothergill,
Yeah.
wacky rig, Neko rig. Or I should say Neko rig, wacky rig, because he's a Neko rigging machine. All these guys that are having these career years, wacky Neko. And my observation is no one is using the wacky jig head.
Why is that, George?
I don't know, but when we learned how to wacky rig, we learned how to wacky rig quickly. The hottest thing, I shouldn't say when we learned. I'm sorry I said that.
I was gonna say we learned.
I'm sorry I said
and
that.
then we added that in.
The hottest trend back in the day was the wacky jig head. And it's deadly, especially if there's a little wind or if you're fishing a little deeper or if there's a little current. Little current, little wind, little deeper. 16th ounce or 32nd ounce. Sometimes an 1/8 ounce. But, so it got me thinking. I start thinking, when did we stop using wacky jig heads? Okay. So we have the Ultra Head, which I think this is the best value in wacky jig heads. I mean, I don't know. They must have they should do a video on this. There's 67 pairs of hands that packages an owner product.
What was the first worm you wacky jig head?
Jackal Flick Shake.
That was the same one I was going to say. Yep.
Because that's where the term flick shake came from. Look at this bad boy. Owner, Ultra Head, wacky. $519 for a 4 count. Basically, it's a mosquito hook.
A badass freaking rig right there.
On a jig head. It's basically a mosquito hook on a jig head.
Look at the wires on that thing. Precision poured.
I mean, that's
Who's the guy?
I think that's a titanium.
No, it's freaking
phenomenal. Badass. $519. And you don't lose a lot of these.
Yeah. Unless you fish the river.
No, you don't even lose a lot in the river. You don't lose a lot, period. These are good in current. They're good in wind, and they're good when you have to fish a little deeper. You know, the tough thing about making a cast in wind with a standard wacky rig is that bow in your line actually pulling your bait through the water. It's very unnatural. I'm big on the wacky jig head. The owner, I'm a big fan of. I'm just going to show it to you.
Yeah, just show it to him.
The Gamakatsu. A little bigger hook.
That is a bigger, wider gap.
1.0. I like them both. This is way more expensive. This is $9.59 for 3. Get your wallet out, people. But I'm here to tell you, it's awesome. Okay.
Old professor turned us on to that one year. That's how we figured it out.
Who's that?
I'm not the professor. The dean.
Oh yeah.
Way back in the day.
Yeah.
He put us on that. He called us up for a next day air package one day.
Oh yeah.
And he had to show us the juice.
Nice.
He had to show us the juice.
Couldn't hide it.
And then after that tournament, one day we were talking with him. We were like, "Yo, bro, tell me about this jig head. What's up with that?" He said, "Damn it." He said, "I knew you guys were going to ask me about that."
Well,
that was his jam.
Yeah. I will say this.
Champlain.
Not everyone has abandoned on the tour level, because the guys that buy everything you have in stock are tour pros. They'll call you up or they'll order online, but they buy every pack you have because they fish them that much. And that's my point. So backing up, this wacky deal is a heavy deal in tournament fishing in the spring. I mean, it's not like a small portion of your day. Look at this year. It's a large portion of your day. You know, and a Neko rig is a wacky rig with a weight ahead of it. So
George, with saying that though, you're saying a lot of the pros are using wacky and they're using Neko,
which to me is the same thing.
And I was going to say, for the listener or the viewer, when would you use one over the other? But you're saying they're pretty much.
Well, they're not pretty much the same. They behave all similarly. You know, the wacky rig is all about the fall. So, you know, shallower fish. The Neko rig is all about a different look on the bottom, coming through cover, really activated by the rod movement on the bottom because it stands it up.
I think it falls differently too, because they do fish it on forward facing.
Definitely falls differently.
Some crazy reason, but they like it on that too.
But it's a big deal. So,
all right,
you know, you can't overlook this stuff.
Oh, heck no.
You know, no matter how much, you can't overlook this stuff.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I'll tell you another thing. We like to get froggy with it. And George has a whole segment on frogs here, and we need to get to it right now. So we call this getting froggy.
You say George likes to get froggy with it. He's got to be one of the highest hookup percentage people I know with a frog.
Well, I was thinking about this show today, and he said we're going to talk about frogs. Every time I watch somebody on TV fishing a frog, they fish it totally opposite than the way I see him fish it. They're you know what I mean? Their rod's going like this, and they're working this freaking frog, and you know, there's none of this dink, 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 and George has always been that dink, dink, you know, and I'm next to him going like this, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm fishing a frog." He's like, "Slow it down, man." He's like, dink, 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 and he gets these bites. Like, remember last year when we fished that tournament?
Yep.
And I was throwing a frog. Was I not? I threw it for like an hour.
And you gave it a good try.
I gave it a college effort, buddy.
Yep.
gave it a college. Never got a blow up. Never got a bite. Never got anything. And then what did he say? He had
we
like
come in and
he had
George
like
is
eight.
well,
Like, I had like 8 keepers on a frog, and I'm like, that's fishing right next to you, man. What the hell?
and I know George might not have took it this way. I was utterly impressed because we couldn't get a sniff.
No.
And he's over there. It's like, okay, great.
So that's where this whole technique thing comes into play. And even though those guys may be working it faster, in my mind, frog fishing and watching when people get bit is the walk of the frog. You know, and it's like this. I mean, it's like if you get to do this thing right here, you know, when you're like this, and you can even do it fast, and somehow those guys can do it so fast that they get that crazy walk on it, I guess. But that walk is the schnizzle.
Yeah, I mean, we have an aisle full of frogs here. I mean, we have
a ton of frogs.
I don't even know how many SKUs of frogs we have. I'm going to say
got too many of them.
I'm going to say just round numbers. We have 1,000 unique frogs here, and that's probably an underestimate. And there's a reason for that. They're super fun to fish.
Yep.
So they're very attractive from that perspective. They're very good to fish in cover because they don't get snagged. And when you put all that together, people are predisposed to fish them. Now, there's a lot more that goes into it. First of all, we talked earlier tonight in our preamble about, my ability to backlash reels and how cool that was to watch, hey, let's shoot a video of doing this on the fly. Well, if you are good at frog fishing, really good at it, you have backlashed a lot of reels. Because first and foremost, the frog is just as effective on hardcover as it is in grass. However, it's only fished about 10% of the time on hardcover, 90% of the time on grass. It might be 5% of the time on hardcover, 95% on grass. Never overlook overhangs, shade lines, boat docks. But there's a problem there. You have to get the frog there.
Yeah.
So that is a problem.
I think open water, a lot of people shy away from because they can put a popper back in there with a treble hook on it and get better hookup ratios.
Whoa. What are you talking about?
Open water.
Oh, open water.
Yeah. Skipping back up underneath trees and stuff.
Well, you can't skip a popper.
Huh?
You can't skip.
Oh, I can skip a popper.
Really?
I put a popper right back underneath them trees, no problem. You never saw me do that?
No. Well,
what the hell makes you say you can't skip a popper?
You pretty much can't skip a popper.
This popper skips great.
Well, I'm going to learn that. So, okay.
I'm just saying, open water. The reason why you don't see a lot of guys throwing a frog in open water is because they fish a popper or they fish a,
Everybody throws a frog in open water. Oh, you mean no grass?
Jesus Christ, George. We just talked about this. You just said open water, not grass.
Oh,
you had two types of things.
Hardcover.
Open water.
Hardcover, not open water.
Open water.
Overhanging trees, boat docks.
All right. Whatever.
Shade lines.
Just finish your spiel.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to do this or not?
I do, but I'm just telling you open water. That means no grass. That's open water where people don't throw frogs.
Up underneath boat docks.
Yeah. They don't do it.
Right. No, well, some people do.
Not
really
many.
Good.
Not many. You just said not many people do it.
Like 5%.
Oh, all right. So then go on now with your thing. But I can put a popper underneath the dock.
Great.
I can do it. And a lot of people would rather fish a treble hook than they would a frog in that situation, is what I'm trying to say. And you just took it off into some kind of space age thing there.
Yeah, I can't skip a pop R to save my ass.
Well, I can.
I can't.
Splash it. I don't use pop Rs.
Splash it, pop R, Rico. I cannot skip a popper 1 foot.
So I'm better at you.
You are.
With one thing.
So anyways.
Go ahead. Finish your spiel.
Yeah, because that's about all it is. I really like a walking frog for that kind of work, as opposed to a popping frog.
Walking and popping is two different types.
I feel like this skips way easier than this skips. Is for me, anyways. Because this just has that streamlined front face. This can grab. I mean, this will skip. Don't get me wrong, but this is the way to go, on those overhanging banks, where the limbs come down to the water, and there's a little opening, a boathouse, a boat dock. There's like this much gap between the dock and the water. You're trying to get up underneath there. But
well, the problem with that one is it skips too good. A lot of times. Like you got to get good at it because it'll skip it and it'll just right up in the air, right up into the tree or right up into the boat dock. So you have to kind of mess around a little bit until you get it right. I did notice that.
And then that's really draws some bites. That's a great, and I would recommend, really pouring yourself into that. And just remember, that style of frog. Perfect for that. Now, the popping frog is probably what I would consider my go-to. And I think a lot of people go to this based upon the people I fish with, the people I talk to. And this is very, very good. I love this around grass, pads, calm days, windy days. Walks great. You get the great walking action. I guess my question for you guys is, as far as like walking these baits, the rods, because to me, it makes a huge difference.
That's one of the hardest things to do is walk a frog.
I think so too.
I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. So for me,
it's not easy to do.
I don't want a real stiff, like broomstick rod. Like I have some rods back here. I have a 7.3 extra heavy, which, okay, open water, heavy grass cover rod. Perfect sense for that. But if you go to like just a regular heavy, with a little bit of tip to it, or even a medium heavy with a little bit of tip to it, and leave a little bit of slack in your line, the frog just walks effortlessly. What's really hard is when and is that heavy, stiff broomstick rod. No good for walking and no good for skipping unless you've like mastered that.
I feel like the farther I throw the frog out, the better I can walk it. But when I get close to the boat, it doesn't walk as good. That's where the problem comes for a lot of people, I think. And that's the slack line control. Because if you don't have the right slack line, it doesn't give enough of the line for that bait to go like that. And that's where I struggle. Mine does on the end of a long cast, it walks really freely because there's a lot of line laying on the water and it has all that line to walk. And then the closer it gets, it starts to, and then all of a sudden you do one of these and then you remember to put some slack in your line and you get a couple of these and it just goes like this again. And it's the way most of us walk a frog.
Well, I mean, this is all good stuff because we're talking rods too in this scenario. So, George, if you're going to skip a frog, what rod would you prefer for that?
So when I'm fishing hardcover,
yeah,
and I'm skipping a frog, I use a 7.2 medium heavy. Even a 7. It's 7.2 medium heavy.
That's skipping now.
Yep.
But is that the same rod you're going to use if you're fishing sparse grass or even a little bit thicker?
Sparse grass, I'll fish that same rod. A little bit thicker grass, I go right to a heavy.
Okay.
I love a 7.2 or a 7 foot heavy, even a 7.3 heavy. It still has enough tip. I can get a really good, walk. I can do a little bit of skipping with it. But that medium heavy, man, does that make skipping easy.
Everybody's like, a lot of the manufacturers' frog rods is a 7.4 heavy. For some reason, they name them frog rods. And, they do have a little bit of, but they got a little bit longer length, but they have a little bit of tip to them. I guess because they figure it's heavy cover, frogging,
So
heavy grass.
So, Mike, with that, would you say that most manufacturers' frog rods would be good for the skipping part or more for the thicker grass part?
Yeah, I think they make them for heavy grass. I think they design them for heavy grass because, for frogging, and that's what they think everybody's going to do. And I think that's where it goes, where it's not until later in the year that we really go to those heavy rods where you need that extra horsepower to set the hook and get them out of that heavy grass. Because most of the time you're fishing over, more of for us and for what I do, I don't need that 7.4 until like end of July, August, September, when they get in that cheese and that heavy stuff.
I'm identical with George. I am identical thought process as George. Totally different rod for a totally different deal.
Yeah. I generally have 2 frog rods tied up. I generally have the medium heavy and the heavy. 8 ratio reels, 65 braid, and I'm good to go. That's my year. I don't fish in Texas. I don't fish in Louisiana. I don't fish, in Florida when their grass is mature. If I did, I'd be talking a whole different game, but I don't. So, the range that I fish, even with mats, I'm good to go. And I can do, appropriately what I encounter. I come up on a string of boat docks and I want to skip a frog on them. Pick up my medium heavy, skip that frog up underneath there, and I hit a fish. I mean, it's open water. He's coming out. Shade lines, which to me are an awesome afternoon pattern, is shade lines. Skipping up underneath the occasional overhang tree that gets low to the water, being able to get 3-4 feet back up in there. The skip can be a little unpredictable where it actually ends up.
Especially on the walking frog, the regular frog skip thing, it just goes everywhere. I had a really hard time with that, man. Skipping up underneath a dock, and it goes up and hits the water and straight up smacks off a dock and then falls in the water. It's like, holy shit, that was 3 foot up in the air. You have to practice with it. It's not, or you're trying to skip it up underneath a tree, and it hits the water and up in the tree. You got to mess with it till you really get good at it. And, I don't do enough of it to be good at it. So I just want people to know that it takes a little bit for skipping, especially when you're trying to skip underneath a 1.5 to 2 foot space, that them things, like George said, gets away from you. They start flying away. It's crazy.
Yeah, a little bit. The thing that really helps you there is your thumb and pulsing that spool. But yeah, learn that anyways. Now color. So I don't know about you guys, but I keep it pretty simple. The part of the frog I'm most interested in is the bottom. Black, white. 2 favorite colors. Now I do have, the top of the frog. The bottom's white. Caught a ton of fish on this. I do have a good color that does extremely well for me when the water is crystal clear. And that's called natural red. And I also have a color that's extremely good for me when there is all kinds of clear water and all kinds of bait fish around. And that's a light belly with white legs.
Hey, George, don't be putting that frog away too soon. Why do we got one longer leg than the other here? Is that something you got mustered up?
Well, that helps quite a bit with the walking.
Mm.
So you'll get a lot more of this easier with that.
Nice.
And I'm not opposed to cutting them shorter, but that's my preferred length. Now, something that we should talk about is some alternate frogs.
Well, hang on before you get off the hollow belly frogs.
Not going to.
Huh?
Wasn't going to.
Okay. Alternate frogs. Go ahead.
So we have, this is a big deal. This is and this is kind of like a hybrid. So here you have a hollow bellied frog with kicking legs. And the beauty of this is you can fish this like a frog, or you can wind this kind of like a buzzbait, get to a hole in the grass or a break in the pads and stop it, and then start it again. It just floats there. This is and everybody makes one. This is a Spro flapping frog. This is a fun frog to fish. This is a very fun frog to fish. And sometimes they like that, that flapping, they get on that. There'll be a period of time when that's the deal.
Bubble trail.
Bubble trail.
It goes back to
sound.
It goes back to rivets, and it goes back to the toad stuff. But I love it on that. Nice thing about that, like George said, on that hollow belly, you can stop it, sits right there. You can twitch it a little bit, then you can start it. Whereas with a hollow belly, it starts to sink right away.
Yeah, the other aspect is the size of the frog. There's times when sizing up, for example, here's a 65 size frog, and there's a 90. And I'm going to tell you something, and it's strictly my theory on this. What makes this at times awesome, and I'll admit it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does happen, it's awesome, is the sound it makes when it lands on the water. It's just big plopping sound.
What do they call that? The King Daddy or something?
King Daddy. Yep.
King Daddy. That's like is that a 70 or is that bigger?
That's 90.
That's a 90.
Yep.
There is a 70 too, right?
Yep.
Like an in-betweener.
There's a popper.
Like a tweener.
In 70. Here's your 60 popper.
And size has been playing a big game for us anyway.
50, 60, 70.
Size has been playing a big game, especially on high pressured waters, Nick. Something different, something that they haven't seen. You see the big King Daddy work one, for one deal, and you see like if George brings out that little 50, that thing's crazy, man. It's a little bitty thing, but you never know. You don't never know what what they want.
Yeah, and in the reality of frogging, in my opinion, the 50, that's a 1% frog. The 60, that's an 80% frog, maybe 85. The 70, that's a 15, 20% frog. Now, it depends on your body of water. I fish a lot of tidal water, so, my forage base is changing all the time. I got yellow perch, then I got white perch, Then I got fry of yellow perch and white perch. Then I got herring. Then I got all this different bait. And there's different size frogs that play at different times. Also, getting back to that kicking frog style thing, there's a time in the spring, and I'm gonna like call it like late spawn, mid to late spawn, even into post spawn, when that kicking style frog or the toad comes into play. So here we have the horny toad. Here we have the bull ribbit. Oh, that's a horny toad. I don't think I have any regular ribbits. Horny toad, regular ribbits this size. Horny toad, bull ribbit. It's all about the sound. This is more of a subtle. This thing has just got this great gurgling. I mean, you can just fish this for the sound. Just a great gurgling. Now, how do you rig these? There's various opinions. Me, I like a single hook. So I fish a 5/0 wide gap screw lock hook on these. That's just what I like to do. You can fish double hooks. The other thing I like to do is a little bit of weighted hook sometimes, especially if it's a little more surface clutter. This kind of sits it down a little bit, just a tiny weight. And it's fun to fish. It's kind of like fishing a buzzbait. So it's pretty easy. You kind of cast it out and reel it in.
And what's nice about that too, George, is, and I use the exact same hooks and everything you're using, but you can also cover a little bit more water.
You're moving.
Yep.
Yeah, you're moving.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a double.
I like the double, but
and it's rigged up.
Son of a bitch to rig up. Miserable son of a gun to rig up.
That's how I rig it.
Nice.
Double trouble. And the toad doesn't roll over as quickly with the double or the weighted. If that bothers you, get the weighted. You could buy a 5/0 screw lock swim bait hook and fish your toad on it. With the belly weight, it'll prevent it from rolling over. Or you can buy a toad hook, whatever. Same process. Same rod. You know, medium, heavy, either one.
I like covering a lot of water with the toads. Plus, I like a more sparse, sparse grass for toads. A lot of those northern lakes, Lake Oneida and some of that stuff up there where you're fishing like a pencil reed, coming out over top of some grass, around cut up grass that piles in the corners and stuff. I like throwing the toad around that stuff. Seems to work a little better for me. And then
That's a great bite.
And then covering a lot of water. Yeah, it is a great bite.
Now, George, I got to ask you, and I know everybody else is watching this is thinking the same thing. You got this box with these beautiful hollow body frogs, and they're all perfect. I seen you pull them out, and the legs all look perfect. For many of us, the legs are shot. I mean, what's your tip to not get your legs of your frogs to be all gooey and stuck together?
Well, I do have a couple in here that are like that, but I mean, this old guy here, he's a veteran of many campaigns. I fish them till they sink. And the more gnarly they get, the better they are. I got one that's laying on the front deck of my boat for my tournament this weekend. That I don't even know how many fish I caught on it, but my secret is line dressing.
Really?
Plus, don't put them away wet.
Never put them away wet.
Don't put them away wet.
Never put them away wet. I mean, that frog right there, I don't even know how old it is. This one here, I mean, this thing should be in a retirement home.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I use, what's it called? Real Magic. Little shot will do you.
Great tip.
Scent free. I mean, I have a couple in here that I have one that's in bad shape. I mean, nobody lives forever. Okay. But I mean, now those two are new. Here's one. This has been in the box for a couple years.
There's a bunch of videos, Nick, that you can watch on changing out the skirts in those things. You know, if you got the time and you're one of them guys that, like, you know, you got the skirt material, which is hard to get. You got the right skirt material, which is hard to get. You got the right colors. You got all that stuff, 10, 12, 14 colors in your house, and you're tinkering down there and you're watching Tackle Shop Live, tinkering with your tackle, and that's the deal. I mean, go ahead and do it, but it ain't easy. It's not easy to change the skirts out. You know, we you know, when we get one like that, we comb it out as best we can. We fish it until it starts to sink, and then we just throw the things away. Just throw them right away,
Yeah,
because
that's what I do too.
it's there. Some frogs they drowned out real quick. You know, other frogs you can get some more time out of them. I think that's the thing with frogs, is their companies are trying to figure out ways to. That's why I always liked the snag proof Ish Monroe frog when it first came out. Ish came out with it. It was called snag. I think it was called snag proof inner. It was called the Ish Monroe frog, and it had a thing called an inner tube, where the hook went through a separate tube from the hollow belly, and you didn't have the hook ripping out that thing and creating water to come in. It was a whole separate chamber to keep the hollow belly from getting ripped out. And that was a great frog. It was just a great frog. But George and I always fish a lot of spro frog stuff, and we fish snag. Actually, at one time, I think George's best frog was that Fred's frog, the snag proof Fred's frog with the white legs. At one time, it was probably one of his favorite frogs. Matter of fact, that for a couple of years, that's all we ever thrown. But even that frog, you went through a lot of them. You know, you just go through frogs, and there's no way, rhyme, or reason why they happens or what goes on. It just, the hook point punctures the body, the nose blows out, the exit hole where the hooks come out blow out. That's a problem. But I will tell you this: there's some tricks and trades and cool things that they do to frogs for different situations. And I think over the last year, one of the greatest ones I watched on a video was Jay Lee. He won a tournament on a frog, and one of the things that he really did was, which was really cool, was he put these rattles in the holes where the skirt is. You know what I mean? And then he had this frog with these rattles on it, and he swore up and down that was the thing why he was getting the bites and nobody else was getting the bites. You know, he swore that was his gig.
It's funny you say that. I remember the days where guys would put them rattles. They'd go to the store, get them rattles, throw them in there, or a little bit of weight.
Yeah,
there was all kinds of things.
Oh yeah,
doing.
I remember back in the day they used to cut pieces of worm and throw pieces of worm in there for extra weight and to throw them around and have them rattle a little bit. I remember that for sure. Really cool stuff. Yeah. So there's a lot of tricks and trades over the years that things do. And if, like, hey, God bless you, if you have a time to deal with trying to figure out how to pull them skirts through there, because if you have a really good frog day, they're tearing them skirts up. And your favorite frog, it might still float fine, but the skirt's all screwed up. It gets ripped apart and falling apart and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, crazy stuff.
Good stuff.
Yep. All right. I guess Guess that's it, huh, Nick?
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Well, you guys don't forget now, make sure you sign up for the tournament May 18th. It's coming quick. You don't want to miss out on one of the greatest tournaments on the East Coast and where everybody's a winner. Check it out, sfttackle.com online, and you'll see a big banner there. Click on there. You can read all about our great tournament. It's a great time. It's a great tournament. It's something you definitely want to do. Until next time, we will see you on the next Tackle Shop Live.
Sunny day, right there you took my breath away. Young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real.